Ben Woody, Assistant City Manager, City of Asheville. I'm going to provide an update on our progress on water restoration. I have a few images today that we'll share as well. I just want to start, I want to kind of ground us. So the city and our partners, we were really able to mobilize and access plants and distribution lines beginning on Monday, September 30th. We had to wait for the floodwaters to recede and we had to be able to remove debris. So today is the end of week 1 of restoration and the beginning of week 2 of restoration. So we've accomplished a lot in a week, and I'm going to provide an update on that today. So we're going to start at North Fork, and we talked on Friday about the importance of reestablishing the bypass line. We showed a number of images, some drone footage, and so the first image that you see on the screen, number 1, this is Friday night. So this is after my update on Friday. These are the contractors working overnight, and this is the site of the bypass line. If you can get that paper for me. So I'm going to make sure the slides, it's hard to see the screen. So this is the same work site. Thank you. And so what you see here is you see our contractors, T&K Utilities and Tanoka, who are making progress on the reconstruction of that bypass line. If you remember, on Friday, we showed you an elbow joint that was being brought in to be installed. So what you see now is the elbow joint and an additional joint are under construction. So you can see the progress on that bypass line overnight. And this next image is a little bit to give some context of what that looks like. So a joint and a line is installed incrementally. The red circle you see around that work area is called a shoring box. So the work area has to be stabilized so the workers can be in that box safely. And we'll continue to do that across this creek bed until we're able to reinstall the bypass line. And one of the things that I want to note about that work is, we'll go to the next image. So this is another look of kind of what that looks like. Again, you can see the elbow joint going deeper into the ground. You can see in this picture, they're actually covering a portion of the installed water line. I'll advance one more slide. Again, same work is occurring. You can see the shoring box. And so why this is important is it just shows you the incremental nature of this bypass line and how it's installed. And this is a really important photograph that I want to share. And I'm going to talk about this for a minute. So what you see, again, to orient yourself, you see the shoring box on the lower part of the picture, and you see where our crews are. And on the upper right hand or the top of the picture, you see a pipe, and that is where I showed the mark. Our drone operator we showed pictures of him at that location. So that's the area that I showed to demonstrate where we lost 25 feet of bank. So you see, we are making our way to that connection point. That's where we have to get to be able to complete this work on the bypass line. So what makes this difficult, and what I want to show is, you see the area they're working is dry. Those are dry conditions. The area they need to work is still in a creek bed. So that creek bed we talked about, continues to be fed by the spillway from the dam as well as tributaries. So what has to happen is when they complete this work, where you see the workers at now, they will have to go install shorings and have to divert the water that exists there. So we have to have dry areas to be able to install this pipe. So you can see the process that it takes to get across this creek bed. The other thing I want to note on this, and this is again important to know how this happens as we sequence this work. We've actually removed part of the pipe where you saw our drone operator film on Friday, and we did that because we have a longer way to go to connect this bypass line, but that's because we were able to put a camera in that line over the weekend, and we found that line was clogged with boulders. So as these pipes wash away, the pipes that remain are going to get sediment, boulders, rock, debris in them. So when we make these connections, we have to make sure that we're connecting to an open pipe. So the way we dealt with the boulders is we removed that section of the pipe. It was damaged, and that's another segment we have to install. So that's really the process that you're going to see to get this bypass line connected. And as I said on Friday, once we can connect the bypass line and put water into that system, that's how we return service to 80% of our water system. And what we are optimistic, we are very hopeful that we can have this work done on the bypass line in 72 hours. We feel good about that. Things happen, but we want to say that. And once we have the bypass line connected, that is a significant, major milestone in the restoration of the water system. But what I want to do today as well, I want to orient the community to the other piece of restoration. And I'm going to take a few minutes to talk about the status of our North Fork Reservoir and Treatment Plant. So this is where the water comes to charge or to put water into our distribution system. So the picture you see right now, that's our North Fork Reservoir. That water source was purchased and established many, many decades ago. It is surrounded by 20,000 acres of forest. It is one of the most protected watersheds in the United States. It is often considered to be one of the most pristine sources of drinking water in the United States. This is a crystal clear water body on a normal day. This is a picture, same picture. This is after the storm, and essentially the best way I can describe this water system, or this water body, excuse me, it's effectively like chocolate milk. So it's went from one of the cleanest water supplies in the United States to what I would term as chocolate milk. It's that murky. So the task at hand for the North Fork Reservoir is that this turbidity, which is a technical term, but we'll just call it murky water, the sediment or the turbidity has to begin to settle before we are able to put it into a filter system and clean it. So that's something that we're monitoring. But what happens is every day that passes, the turbidity in that water begins to settle. That's a natural process. And that's occurring as we are making these repairs to the distribution system. One of the things that is important to note is we are able to intake water at different depths. So there's different points in the water column that we can get water into the treatment system when it's ready. We're able to change that. So we're monitoring the water column to make sure we know where the water is that has the least amount of turbidity, and that's where we'll be able to get the water from when that time comes. The other thing that I want to note is we have EPA and FEMA officials that are on site. They're not only providing resources for this recovery effort, but they're providing technical assistance on how we can treat this reservoir and what we can do to get water back to this community. So again, we have those technical experts that are with us on site. And we're also, with those technical experts, we're working on contingency plans to deliver non-potable water to the distribution system while we continue to restore our treatment capacity. So we are looking at every way we can to get water into our distribution system. But I'll remind everybody, none of that can happen until the distribution system is repaired. So these things are happening concurrently. What we hope to do is to be in a position to begin to pressurize the system once the reconstruction of the bypass line is completed. So I'm going to come back and talk about the distribution system in a minute. I didn't advance my slides, but I just want to show a couple more pictures on what that looks like. And I need to look. Okay. So this, I talked about the turbidity in the reservoir. Well, this is a picture of a filter. So this is where the water comes and it passes through this to be able to be treated and put into the distribution system. And that's very dark, but this is a better picture. So what you see here is the water that's in our water treatment plant. On the left, again, I would describe that as chocolate milk. On the right, that is crystal clear. So that is the difference in the water condition in our treatment plant before and after Hurricane Helene. So again, this mud, these conditions, all this has to be cleaned and removed. So not only do we have to have water that we can treat, we have to have a plant that's in a condition to treat that. But I'll go back and say we are making contingency plans to try to get water into the distribution system. So I'm going to move over to Mills River now. We've talked about that a lot. I have some good news from Mills River. Our Mills River plant is fully operational, and we've actually reduced the pressure at that plant. That sounds counterintuitive, but it's actually really good news. Because what that means is we've been able to fully pressurize the southern Asheville, southern Buncombe distribution area. So the area that Mills River services is now fully pressurized. And that's really good news because one is it means if you have water, you should not lose water in the South Asheville area. But the other thing that it means is we do not have any major breaks in the southern distribution system. Now, we may still find small breaks as we begin to recover, but that's great news for Mills River. I do want to note one thing. I want to temper that. It is critical that if you're in the southern distribution center and you have water, it is critical that you continue to conserve water. Anybody that has water needs to conserve water. We have a long way to go. So I'll move to the distribution system. We've talked a lot about this. We showed a lot of imagery on Friday, but our contractors continue to make progress on large-scale repairs to our primary transmission lines. Those contractors for the city are TP Howard and Tanoka. We are also working closely with NCDOT and their contractors, and we are all working together to make these critical repairs to the distribution system as we find them and as we have materials available. One thing I want to note, I want to just give a little bit of the challenge on that. So we are having to restore a water system and roads and do the design work. The engineering is actually happening in the field as the work occurs. Normally, you would have the engineers in the office. They would do the design work. Then we would do a bid and do the construction. So all this is happening at once. So we have the contractors have their engineers. We have ours. We are engineering and building concurrently to restore the distribution system. And we can talk more about this, but it's important to know that the way we've sequenced that repair to the distribution system is we begin at the points that are closest to the source of water. So we want to make sure that the distribution system that is in the closest proximity to North Fork Water Treatment Plant, those need to be repaired first, and then we'll make our repairs out into the larger system. And we do it in that manner because that's the manner that the water is going to go into the system. It's going to start closest to the source, and then it's going to make its way out into the other areas of the system. And the last thing I want to note is I also want to make everybody aware our City of Asheville water crews had a couple of questions on the number of employees. I've confirmed that we have 181 employees in the City of Asheville's water department. They are also making repairs in preparation for the restoration process. So this includes they're out assessing, making repairs as they're found. And I want to be clear, as the system pressurizes in the coming weeks, we will continue to find new breaks and leaks. So it's important to know that there are many, many breaks and leaks that we are not even aware of yet. And we won't know those until we are able to pressurize the system. And that concludes my comments for today. And I'm going to turn it over to Police Chief Mike Lamb. Thank you.